just any other hospital. Who knows who's down there? Oh, his fingernail?
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2012 found footage horror film Real Evil, also known as Spectres. The film is co-written and directed by Danny Draven, and it stars Jessica Morris, Kaiwi Lyman, Jeff Adler and Jamie Bernadette. Right, the film follows a group of struggling filmmakers. They're wanting to break out on their own. They've got plans to do like really cool documentaries, all this kind of stuff. However, in order for them to get funding that they need to do their own projects, they are hired by a producer to go and do some behind-the-scenes footage for a film that is being shot at a local asylum that's been closed for many, many years. So they turn up to the work location, meet everybody on the set, the director, the cast, the other people involved in the film, and they get to work. They start filming behind-the-scenes stuff. But the more they explore the building, the more they feel that other places in the building are far more interesting and might actually help progress their careers in regards to some spooky stuff that's going on. However, they soon come to regret that very, very badly. Right, what are my thoughts on Real Evil? Well, this is another one that was kind of recommended to me on one of these groups that I follow, found footage groups. And this, probably, for those of you who watch a lot of found footage and know a lot of found footage films, this sounds a lot like Grave Encounters. And absolutely, you're right, it does. And in many ways, it absolutely is like Grave Encounters. Now, for me, if you're going to try and copy a found footage film, you could do far worse than copying what is, in my opinion, one of the better found footage films, which is Grave Encounters. So, I mean, what's not to like? You know, a documentary film crew going to a supposedly haunted asylum and getting lost in the catacombs underneath and, coming to regret it. It's a recipe for spooky stuff. And yeah, while there is some nicely captured scares here occasionally in the film, I think the main there's a few things that let it down. I think the setup is pretty dull. You don't really get a great introduction to the characters. There are moments of soft porn, really, in the film that there's no other way of putting it, really. There is some gratuitous nudity in the film and scenes of sex that the film just doesn't need. I always feel like when they do that in found footage, it cheapens the film. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like... Because I know, many of us know that most of these found footage films are made on a shoestring budget. So it always feels exploitative to me in these low budget found footage films if, they get, the pretty cast members to strip off and do sex scenes and stuff. I just think it cheapens the film and it always feels a bit creepy to me. So that isn't a good thing in the film. So you don't get a great introduction to the characters. There's nudity and sex scenes that the film doesn't need. And literally everyone that they meet on this film set are absolute arses. The producer who hires them is an arsehole. The director is an arse. The leading actress is an arse. They're all arses, and they treat this documentary crew like, shit on the shoes. And I'm just thinking it's so cliched. Do you know what I mean? They're making a movie within a movie sort of thing, if you like, trying to be a little bit meta. But it's so cliched to portray everybody who's making this film upstairs that this documentary film crew is doing the behind-the-scenes footage for. They're all arses. So for me, I just thought the setup was a bit naff, to be honest. However, Once the film got going and they start going and exploring the other aspects of the building and doing a little bit of investigating, and even though there's some quite convenient, medical files left out for them to read about this doctor that experimented on people. I mean, these things would just not be left lying around. And then, obviously, creepy stuff start happening. And once that kind of stuff starts happening, the creepy stuff, where they start investigating, and the slow build then starts to pay off, and you start getting a little bit more bang for your buck from the film. And it leans very heavily then into scares that you are used to, I suppose. It never leans into new territory, this film. And a lot of the scares do feel like they have been manufactured from other very, very similar found footage films like Grave Encounters. But it still doesn't change the fact that some of them are quite effective scares. There's some scenes of mild body horror, decapitations, and all this kind of stuff that work quite well with the film, if I'm being honest. And it's quite cathartic to see some of these arses who were involved in the film production upstairs, who, for reasons, go downstairs to explore, get taken out one at a time by these spectres or ghostly things or whatever is going on downstairs. But, okay, yes, the film's highly predictable. It's unoriginal. It's not got a great setup. It's not got masses of interesting characters, and it's got nudity and sex scenes that just cheapen the production. So it's got quite a lot against it. But when it actually knuckles down and focuses on actual found footage scares, as unoriginal as they are, it actually does an half-decent job of what it is trying to do. So there was a part of me when watching this, but it was taking an age to get going, and there was like these nudity scenes left, right, and centre, and it was leaning very heavily towards negativity to me, and I was not enjoying it initially. And then, like I say, once it decides to actually do what it's supposed to do, which is like try and scare you and be a found footage film, the film is far more successful. So this is a difficult one to strongly recommend because it's not a good found footage film. It's bang average in many, many ways. It's got a lot of flaws, but it's also got some fun scares nearing the end of the film. So if you can forgive some of its flaws and be patient with the film, you will get some classic found footage moments, but it just depends really if you're a completionist almost and you want to see every found footage that you can get your hands on, then give it a go. You might like it more than me, but from my perspective, it's absolutely flawed, is this one. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.